Hello and welcome to today's session on private networks. I'm Hema Kadia from TeckNexus, and we are delighted to have John Francois joining us from Anrtisu. Anrtisu recently won TeckNexus Award for Excellence in Service Assurance for Private Network Deployments. Welcome, John Francois. Before we begin, I would appreciate if you can take few minutes to introduce yourself as well as elaborate your role at Anrtisu.
Yeah, of course, Emma. Thanks a lot. Within Anritsu Service Assurance Division, I'm in charge of the global business development to address the enterprise mobile private network area. Anritsu is used to operate in the mobile network operator world with more than 60 global customers around the world. And coming from more than 30 years of experience in the enterprise IT and most focus on enterprise networking, I joined Anritsu a bit more than 1 year ago to combine those two historical cultures and try to bring a new set of value proposal onto this mobile private network market that is still in ramp up, in transformation phase, in maturation phase. And what we start seeing, and I think that the reason why we are here today together, is that service assurance is a mobile network operator concept that is fitting quite well into today's customer preoccupation when it comes to operating and getting insight on those critical private networks that they deploy.
Thank you for that introduction. Let's dive into our first question. So, what are some of the key challenges in ensuring service levels for private networks?
Yeah, today what we see talking with most of the actors on the market is that we identify what we can call a kind of customer dilemma between, on one side, the criticality of the use cases that they have to deploy on those private networks. The customer are deploying those new technologies not to replace what they had in the past, is to complement what they have today. So it means that it's additional cost, additional support to plan. And when they deploy it, it's because they have mission critical application that can no more rely on what they got today, or either the Wi-Fi network, the wired networks, or the public 4G, 5G network. So they have very high performance, not in terms of mega important bandwidth, but they have performance in terms of reliability, of stability of the network. They need to have something predictable and with a ballistic behavior. And on the other side, that's the reality of the market today. Those critical usage have to rely on quite innovative ecosystem. Private LTE 5G network are just on the market since a few years now, and they are still very evolving in terms of standardization, in terms of actors also on the market. It's a very, let's say, fragmented and disaggregated technological ecosystem. When you discuss with clients having some historical Tetra infrastructure, by example, for the mission critical push to talk, and they migrate to LTE based system, they are transforming their partnership with one vendor, providing the terminals, the application, the radio, the central core, the operation, to a very fragmented value chain, with someone selling the rugged smartphone, someone selling the push-to-talk system, another one selling the RAN, another one selling the core, another one selling maybe the transport network, and another one providing, as we do, service assurance. So there's a kind of a very complicated operational model that have to be addressed based on this criticality. Most of the platform that we see today on the market are very vendor-based. They are very relevant and efficient to monitor infrastructure component, but one monitoring each part provided by each vendor. And it's also because there's no monitoring standardization like we used to see in the enterprise market with the SNMP. So all this is making the balance quite tricky to find. And what we see today is some big operational network that are today operated in a quite, let's say, empiric manner, with very reactive troubleshooting processes and no proactivity, and no end-to-end SLA aggregation. Another very key challenge that we see today, of course, there's this pressure on TCO and Airline, because the hype to deploy private network just for the fun is really not the most likely situation that we can see. So big pressure on this financial part. And last but not least, the skills topic, because you can have the best technology possible. If you don't have the right level of skills and expertise to operate and to master it, it won't fly. The best plane in the world can fly if it doesn't have a skilled pilot. And what we see today is really a massive skill shortage when it comes to having customer or system integrators finding expertise resources to really properly handle those networks. So all this combined is making I think it's not the main factor that is, as we could say, slow a bit the ramp up of the technology and the project, but I think it can contribute, and there's something to bring, I think, for us on the market in terms of bringing back some confidence in the capacity of the customer to really ensure that those networks are behaving as planned.
So, if we look at these challenges, how is Anrtisu addressing this challenging, addressing the related gaps, and meeting the customer expectations for enterprises that are deploying private networks across vertical segments?
Yeah, today the key point that we highlight when we engage on new opportunities is first to highlight the fact that we customer or system integrator have to dissociate the service assurance and I won't say monitoring by on purpose, because it's not only monitoring, but it's about to dissociate the service assurance strategy from the technology choices, meaning moving into a vendor-agnostic approach. So that's the first key point. Is we don't care about what vendor you have today and you will have tomorrow. We really act as a data integrator and data monetization actor. The second point is to move from an infrastructure component-centric way of managing the network to a more subscriber-based, user-centric way of monitoring. You can have a 99.9% availability or I don't know, success in attach rate on a core network. If you don't know what is happening with the 0.1% that failed and in which area, which kind of users, which criticality of the usage have been impacted, you don't care about having your 99.9 availability. So you really have to implement a much more subscriber-centric way of understanding how the network is behaving, and that by design, the way Anritsu platform are working since 30 years in service assurance for telcos. Another point is really to insist on the ability to have this end-to-end vision. I took the example of the Tetra system. We are moving from integrated system to very disaggregated and fragmented. So we are here to support the re-aggregation in terms of visibility, and it goes from the core system, of course, but also up to down to the end user devices, to the CPEs. We need to monitor not only how the network is behaving seen from a central perspective, but also how the end user are perceiving the quality. And that's where the role of our partner and now 33% affiliate SmartVisor is really important, because it's the part of the solution that is bringing this user-centric vision. And last but not least is what we really think is a key point to address is to ensure that we have a very open and adaptive solution framework in terms of injecting any potential valuable data that we can find or extract with additional component on the client, the enterprise architecture, but also be able to as seamless as possible interconnect with all the rest of the ICT monitoring, end-to-end management, full stack management, like hypervisor, like ticketing system, generic analytics system. So all those different characteristics that make the difference between having one vendor-provided monolithic siloed infrastructure management and having a service assurance approach with us.
So, continuing on the same question, how do you see the service assurance for private network different than the traditional network monitoring that we implemented earlier?
It's interesting because very often there's a confusion between service assurance and monitoring. For me, network monitoring is one amongst other use cases that we can provide with a service assurance platform. For me, a service assurance and for Anrtisu, a service assurance platform is first has to be able to address a wide range of use cases that can be used every day by a wide variety of user categories of personas, but all those sharing the same raw input data that are the one provided by all the network component themselves. So that's really the philosophy, and also the ability to navigate very seamlessly between all the use cases and the way to implement. One example is that by aggregating all subscriber signaling data records and re-aggregating KPIs and dashboard based on this, we can on one side use those data for the help desk team in order to track some specific usage for a specific user when they have him on the phone. We can build some very technical network behavior KPI for the NOC, and here we can talk about network monitoring, but we can also reaggregate much higher service level views that we can expose either to top management, to service manager, to central supervision that don't care about having very precise indicator. They need to know if the push to talk service is at XYZ% of availability, same for the end user performance perception, same for the core or the run. So that's this wide range, and this kind of, when we discuss with client, we build together a kind of matrix where on one side we are putting the different use cases and outcome, and on the other side we are putting the various internal or external user that could benefit and get value from those usage. Network monitoring is just one of them, meaning very technical KPIs that are consumed by the network operation people. And but once again, the important thing is all those outcomes being built on one single set of data records with the ability when we navigate to come from a very high level service level availability vision and drill down to the individual signaling data records that were used to reaggregate these global indicators.
So, continuing on that response, uh, if we need to support this wide range of network categories and the related enterprise use cases, what are some of the operational models that market should support?
Fact, there's no one size fit all model, because there's no one size fit all also deployment and implementation model. When we talk about private network, we have some it's just an opposition to public, I would say B2C traditional wireless network. Meaning you can have a full dedicated network, totally on-site with private spectrum, some hybrid with part in the cloud, maybe of an MNO or a network service provider, and part on-site, a full virtualized with the slicing approach or an hosted approach. So and on top, you can have different categories in terms of size of networks. And I think that one of the big issue we said at the intro is all the financial justification and ROI. So it means that the market has really to enrich the catalog of operating models to ensure that there's something that can be proposed to potentially each customer having some. Once again, we are back to the beginning. Those clients deploying private network, they have business critical application on it. And today I see some clients operating in best effort and half blind mode, those critical network. it's a kind of time bomb that is sometimes deployed. So there will be, I think that there need to be room for different operating model. Today, I see a lot of dedicated on-site team traditional operating model, either delivered to, we don't care, subcontractors, to internal resources that you are training or hiring, or SLA-based operating contract. But at the end of the day, it's one network, dedicated resources that only work for these customers. It's efficient, but very, very costly. It's hard to staff and hard to maintain, back to the skills shortage issue. And it's fitting very large, mature customers that need a 100% tailor-made, dedicated team. But it will be really the top of the pyramid. For me, one of the accelerator and the enabler in the ramp up of the network, and there's still some cultural change to have in the market, to be transparent. We'll go through the deployment of I would say managed services center, shared NOC service provider, where one single central team with one single central platform will be able to provide maybe not the full set of services, but maybe 70, 80, 85% of the true standard platforms to the customer wanting to have some support on their network, just keeping the specific on-site custom tailor-made for a minority of the scopes. It's about enabling the cost to be more I would say adapted to the reality of the market, and also to accelerate the time to market, because implementing a private NOC is really something that is that can be long also to achieve. And finally, there's those virtual network. Ultimately, when the 5G SA will be on the market, more generalized, the slicing services, where it's our traditional customer base. So what those MNOs need to achieve is to de-standardize a bit the kind of outcome that they will provide to enterprise, and to be able maybe to have a 90% of a standard scope of work that they can deliver to the client, but opening door to more custom reporting, specific dashboarding or indicators, or third-party data integration. It won't be just about monitoring the 5G slice. I think that the end-to-end preoccupation and having the ability to also inject data coming from the end user devices or the CPEs will be important. What is cool with the Anritsu platform is that ultimately we can provide deploy our platform in all those three implementation models. It's just where do we put the cursor between the central data aggregation and data, I would say, monetization, and the data acquisition layer. We can put everything on site, a part on site, a part that will be central, or have everything centralized. But I think the key cultural change will have to be, at least in Europe, I don't know in the other geographies, but we'll have to have customer accepting, okay, I'm deploying private network, but I will have them managed by off-the-shelf external operating center. Today, I still see some cultural blocking point here, but they won't have the choice. Even if all the clients have the budget, there won't be enough skills for all the clients deploying private network to operate their network. So it's a no-brainer. They will have to move to shared services approach.
So, if we look at your recent successful private network deployment at the European airlines, what are some of the key insights that you take away?
In fact, a lot of them, and we discover some new finding and new stuff every week. First of all, we are not in a network monitoring discussion. What we are currently doing with this airline is everything but network monitoring. It's about when I said talked about this matrix with the different kind of outcome and use cases and the different user categories. we are typically in this perspective. And for the moment, for various reasons, we don't even address the network operation team with technical KPIs. So that's one first thing. The other finding is that it's not a software editor role that we need to have talking to those large private network clients. We are somewhere more in a kind of consultative approach to help them expressing what are their needs in terms of not technical requirement, but business outcome, and to try to extrapolate based on the data that we can acquire on the global infrastructure, what value we could bring to which part of the business. So it's not a technical discussion. The technical will come after, but it's more an outcome-led discussion. And here we see as Anritsu that our role is moving from a software editor with a bit of integration layer or customization layer to a much more, I would say, tailor-made data integration actor. Of course, there's the central platform, and all the principle of the solution are the one that are used whatever the data source is. But as example, we very regularly identify some new devices on the network, and the thing is, okay, there are this brand of CPEs is deployed. What kind of data can they expose? How can we access them? What API, data streaming, and so on? Prototype the data injection in our platform. Hopefully, it's open by design, so it's quite easy to do so. And after, see how we can monetize this. So it's really a data, kind of data monetization approach, and it's not a technical monitoring one. We see also one trend about the blurring lines between the private and the public network. It happened that this airline is using some dual IMSI SIM card to ensure either public to private roaming or backup. So it's a new use case to monitor that is not fully private, but that is very important. And we see a big trend to have this private to public seamless roaming in order to ensure that the field of applications coverage can get out of the pure, let's say, private covered sites. And finally, and back to the Smart Visor collaboration that is really accelerating a lot those last months. The contribution of the field devices in terms of, for the moment, we are using continuous active testing on dedicated devices, but the roadmap is also to implement some temporary lighter active testing capabilities on potentially all the user devices to transform the end user as a kind of grid of mini network probes to ensure that we have a heat map on that is reporting how the network is behaving in near real time. And this contribution of the devices is a major difference with what we used to do with network operators since years, because an MNO by design, the end user devices are totally out of its governance. In the enterprise, it's the opposite. The end user devices are most of the time within the governance with MDM installed. You have the right to install some agent on it. The end user has no right to, at least he can argue, but you are in your I would say in a zone where you can install some additional stuff on the devices to enhance the way you monitor the network, and that's really something that is even for us, I won't say more important than managing the central infrastructure, but I would tend to say that we could extrapolate the way the central infrastructure is behaving just by analyzing how the end user devices are perceiving it.
And that's very detailed inputs. Thank you so much, Jean-Francois, for taking time to talk to me and sharing the insights on how Anrtisu's service assurance solution is addressing the enterprise needs for private network deployments. Much appreciate your time. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Emma. Thanks a lot.